KTNA, experts in apprenticeships, traineeships and work-based training.
Hello and welcome to Chris & Co, the show looking at what affects business in Kent, with me, Chris Price. Joining me this week are Amy McManus, Managing Director of AM Marketing, and Duncan Cochrane-Diet, a partner at accountancy McIntyre Hudson, both based in Canterbury. Later, we'll be talking about the changing face of the supermarket sector in the county after the announcement of the audacious merger plans between Asda and Sainsbury's. First, we have some news which broke this afternoon that House of Fraser plans to close stores after coming under new ownership. Chinese retailer C-Banner is taking a 51% stake in the firm, which had previously been controlled by another Chinese owner, Nanjing Senbas. The retailer plans to launch a controversial company voluntary arrangement, an insolvency measure used by companies to restructure their debts and renegotiate rent payments. House of Fraser did not say how many of its 59 stores in the UK and Ireland will close. It has shops in Bluewater and Maidstone. So, guys, first of all, I'll just ask, did this news today come as a surprise?
In terms of retail, no. It's increasingly becoming more common with the giant that is Amazon, that retailers just can't compete. You have everything there at the touch of a button in the comfort of your own home, and you can look at prices, see what's cheapest, see what's the best, just in an instant, rather than having to drag yourself out of the house and spend hours of your day doing it in a store. Absolutely.
Duncan, these company voluntary arrangements are becoming sort of growing in popularity among retailers. I mean, what are they? I mean, this is the measure that House of Fraser says it's going to use for these closures. Sure. What are they, and why are they becoming popular among retailers?
A company voluntary arrangement is known as a CVA. Just in short, it's a legal arrangement which gives protection to an organisation to enable it to undergo whatever plans it has to undergo. The thing with the CVA is it does require all the creditors to agree to undertake the process. So behind the arrangement, there's clearly been a great deal of discussion and early discussion and pre-agreement, if you like, before they go for what on the face of it is quite not an aggressive way of doing things, but a very formal way of doing things.
Sure. Now, we have seen Toys R Us, Maplin closing, sort of coming into sort of real problems. They're collapsing. New Look is closing 60 stores. Carpet-Right, 92 stores are closing. Mothercare, they're also in trouble. What is the issue with retail? I mean, how are we going to be seeing these problems for retail for quite some time?
This is going to be a terribly difficult time for retail, and it's only really just starting. Yeah. But we can see quite a lot of distress coming onto the high street. And the reason, of course, is the internet. And that's changed everything. And I think that we understand components of how much it's changed things for large businesses and for high street retailers. But we're yet to see how far and how deep this is going to play out.
Thanks very much for that, guys. Now, the big news, which has shocked the retail sector, is the proposed takeover of Asda by fellow supermarket giant Sainsbury's. The £7.3 billion deal could see prices cut by about 10%, according to Sainsbury's boss Mike Coop. But the tie-up is likely to be scrutinised by competition watchdogs, and many suppliers have raised concerns that they could be squeezed if it goes ahead. We asked shoppers in Gillingham whether they think prices will come down if the deal is approved.
I think when they merge, it's possible that prices will be lower because of the competition. Tesco's are always dearer than anybody else, I find, so yeah, I would say it probably is.
The thing is, Asda's usually quite cheap and Sainsbury's is the more pricier of the high street supermarkets, so maybe they'll reach a nice happy medium, but the way consumer prices are going at the moment, it's probably going to creep up as an average.
No, I think they go higher because I don't believe in it, of two big companies amalgamating like that, because I believe they have the monopoly of everything and they can dictate to the suppliers what they want to pay and increase the prices on the shop floor.
I don't know, to be fair. They're both very competitive supermarkets, so you'd hope they would, but I couldn't answer that one, to be fair. I know Asda's are quite low and Sainsbury's are quite reasonable, so you'd think they'd put the prices down, yes.
Possibly, to be fair. I shop in Asda, so it might, I don't know. We'll see if it makes a difference.
Nah, not really. It'll probably just be a case that they've said it, so that public opinion is sort of good on it, but they won't really do it. It'll probably be the same.
Okay, so consumers are quite sort of confused about what the future of pricing might be. And do you think that this, huge merger, £7.3 billion merger, is going to see prices come down or actually go up?
Well, at the moment, we just don't know. We've got the chief executive saying they could reduce by 10%, but he hasn't said what products would reduce by 10%, how many of them would be. So it seems to just be a finger in the air and a bit of a guess at the moment. What we do know is that this is the second and the third largest supermarkets in the UK merging. So even if the Competition Authority allow that to go ahead, you're going to be in a position where the consumer has 60% of the market dominated by one large supermarket. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing. Only time will tell whether they're allowed to merge at all.
What do you think are the reasons behind this takeover?
We're back to the internet, really, aren't we? And the big threat that's coming down from Amazon and what they're planning to do next. There's a lot of talk about them extending their tie-up with Morrison's. And that's causing a lot of angst in the sector, and certainly over across the pond in the US, in the activities of Amazon there. Walmart, of course, is the owner of Asda and has already experienced some of this competition. So getting together in a TARP, it is both an opportunity and also a response to a threat. The opportunity, of course, is the advantage of scale.
Sure. I do think another threat as well could be the recent merger of Tesco and Booker's. So maybe they're feeling a little bit scared about that and how that's going to affect their future business.
Very quickly, these are two iconic brands. Now, in the future, if this merger goes ahead, do you keep the two brand names because they are so well known, or do you see one superseding the other? What's the way
we could have a Sainsbury's.
Yes.
Or an Asda's or something. The thing about the two brands is that they're very, very different. You've got Asda, it's bright green. Before Aldi and Lidl came along, it was seen as the UK's the cheap supermarket, where you go if you want to, the Asda price, tap in your pocket if you want to save money. Whereas Sainsbury's is sort of seen as a little bit higher up market. You have the Taste the Difference range, and it's sort of like seen a little bit lower on the same par with Marks and Spencer's. So two very, very different brands, different pricing structures, different qualities of food. Personally, I would think that they would keep the two separate, or within store have separate ranges for different types of people and the different customers.
Sure. Guys, thanks very much for your input on that. Now with news of more delays to theme park plans, a pub being perked up for punters and Poundland pitching up with some celebrity help. Here's Josie Hannett with this week's Business Roundup.
Ashford Borough Council paid a staggering £7.9 million for International House and its surrounding land. Authority bosses purchased the site in February 2014, along with the adjacent properties in Dover Place and the Dover Place car park. They'd planned to turn the area into a commercial quarter, and the first part of the scheme is almost complete, with the 6-storey office block next to the Everest Inn. A £3.2 billion theme park has been delayed in Kent yet again. London Resort Company Holdings, the company behind the proposed tourist attraction, has confirmed its intention to put back the submission of a planning application for land on the Swanscombe next year. Nothing has been said about how this will affect its proposed opening date, which was put back for a 4th time last year to 2023. An historic Maidstone pub has reopened following a major £900,000 restoration. The pub, formerly known as Earl's, has now taken on its original Victorian name of the Market House. In addition, it's hired a new team to run the venue. The Market House pub in Maidstone is opposite the Hazlitt Theatre and next to the Fremlin Walk shopping centre. It was closed in January whilst brewer Shepherd Neame undertook the work. And Poundland has finally opened its larger premises in County Square in Ashford. The store was officially opened by the Only Way is Essex star James Locke, slightly behind schedule to cut the ribbon. Large queues were eagerly waiting outside, some for up to an hour beforehand, to get their first look at the shop and to meet the Towie cast member. Here's what he had to say.
I do shop in Poundland. I've been to Poundland a few times. and how have you found the open housing?
It's been a good reception. I've really enjoyed everyone turning up today. I appreciate it. It's been a good opening, and yeah, I think they're going to do very, very well here. So good luck to them.
Okay, so with the London resorts, the planning application has been delayed yet again, now not going to be until next year. What are your thoughts when you hear about this application being delayed once again?
For me, it's not much of a surprise. It's one of the things where for me personally, it seems that theme parks don't seem to have a very good reputation at the moment within the UK. We just keep on hearing about people being injured, rides being stopped, issues with safety, causing a lot of cases for a lot of the parks that we already know within the UK. So to add a new one to the mix when people are already a little bit tentative, it's not.
Well, I mean, what does that do to the local businesses? There are many businesses, around more than 100 businesses that are on the site of where the developers want to build this tourist attraction. They're facing an uncertain future. I mean, what do they do?
They are, and there's no escaping from that. It's a good and a bad thing, isn't it? I mean, it's terrible for the businesses who are based on the land at the moment and the uncertainty about where to go and what's going on. But it is a massive opportunity, this, to inject some really serious capital and infrastructure into that part of Kent. And that part of Kent could really use it. So there can be an enormous benefit further down the line to those very same businesses.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that, guys. We'll see you right after this break. Welcome back to Chris & Co, the show looking at what affects business in Kent, where I'm joined by Amy McManus of AM Marketing and Duncan Cochran-Dyett from McIntyre Hudson. Royal Bank of Scotland has announced it's closing 162 branches in England and Wales and cutting around 800 jobs. It had planned to spin off the business as a new challenger bank under the name Williams & Glyn, but since shelved the idea. 109 branches will close in late July and August, with another 53 closing in November. These include branches in Canterbury, Dartford, Folkestone, Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells. Bosses said fewer people use branches and instead manage their finances on their mobile. Okay, so first off, when was the last time you used your local bank branch?
We actually use ours quite regularly because we have a couple of clients that still pay us by cheque.
Right.
Which I'm not going to say is the best thing in the world. It is sometimes slightly annoying that you have to keep on going to branch, but if that's how they want to pay, and we're going to facilitate that for them.
Duncan, yourself?
I was in there yesterday.
Yeah.
I've been given a rebate from Southern Power for 7p. So I'm determined, and again that's a cheque, so I'm determined to get it in there.
Fair enough, fair enough. So banks say this is because more people are sort of moving online. This is something that we've known about for a long time. You know, there's been this long shift towards the internet from consumers. Are banks sort of too quick to make these branch closures? You know, should they be looking at perhaps, you know, and cutting jobs with that? Should they perhaps be looking at retraining staff, moving them into different areas of the business? Is it too simple for a bank to just say, right, we're going to write off these branches because people are banking in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, they may say that mobile banking has increased, and of course it has. Online banking is increasing every single year, more and more people are using it, but there's still a vast majority that don't. And when you want to look at online banking, look at the issues that TSB are currently having and still having to this day, where people cannot get to their online banking, they cannot receive funds, they cannot send money, and they're helpless.
You need that support network. I mean, this has a wider social implication as well, doesn't it, Amy? I know you
absolutely.
Strong views about this.
I do have really strong views. So we're talking about financial exclusion. So particularly in areas of Scotland, but there's some areas all over the country where people live in the sticks, or they have disabilities, or they just can't get out. They don't have cars, they're stuck in their homes, they use public transport to get to banks. When you take banks away from those people, you get into a position where they cannot access the normal financial services that you should be able to live a normal life. And that can then lead to social exclusion, not being able to access proper housing, proper medical care, and can actually lead to then poverty in some cases.
Sure. And Duncan, very quickly, what damage can it do to businesses if you don't have a branch nearby?
A lot of businesses still work on cash. They've got to take it somewhere, and you can arrange for security corps to come along and pick it up, but it's pricey. Yeah. But there is a choice. There are challenger banks, Metro Bank, for example, busy opening branches in Kent, going for the local angle. So when one bank exits, another one has an opportunity to move in.
So there's hope yet, which is good.
Switch firms.
Now, as part of KMTV's Made in Kent series, our reporter Cameron Tucker's been to visit a Faversham food hall. What he found at McNade Fine Foods was a family business which traces its history back more than 170 years.
In this week's edition of Made in Kent, we're going inside McNade Fine Foods, whose 170-year history has led from farming immigrants from Italy to being one of the South East's leading food halls.
It's a farm in its origins, and my family came here in 1847. So on my mother's side I have an Italian name, so it's not a Kentish name. My father came across during the 70s when he married my mother, and that's the Italian side of the family. We now have 6.5 acres of the original farm yard. We trade over 10,000 square foot. McNade Fine Foods. McNade is a family business, as has been for the last 170 years. And yeah, I'm the 6th generation.
Today, McNade's offers a diverse stock from Kentish producers of fruit and veg, pasture-fed meat, freshly baked breads and deli treats. Though they welcome producers from across the county, the vetting process to be part of the business is rigorous.
Obviously, one of the things we have to look for is consistency, and that for a small producer is can be quite tricky. We have to make sure they're meeting all the health and safety guidelines, that the packaging is appropriate and looks the part as well. And we're very lucky that we have a lot of people who want to be stocking their produce, a lot of producers who want to be stocking their produce in the store, and I think we can showcase it very well here.
Okay, so McNade is the other side of the coin, really, to your Poundlands, your Aldis, your Lidls of this world. How much are shoppers prepared to pay for a product if the product is right?
I think it completely depends on the person, how affluent they are, and where they live, and what else is going on in their life, to be honest. It's one of those things where someone who really wants to know where their produce is coming from, what the source of their meat is their fruit and veg organic. McNade is perfect for that sort of consumer, but not everyone can afford that. And that's where your Aldis and your Lidls come in to provide good quality food and good quality products, just at a smaller percentage of the price.
Sure. Now, they make it very much an experience when you go to buy your groceries. I mean, is that a model that can be adopted by your bigger retailers, or is that something that's only going to be achievable for a local family type firm? Is that something that, a model that can be sort of spread around the country, do you think?
Well, larger retailers, they have tried to do this, haven't they? But this is all about local sourcing, in my view.
Yes.
So you know where it's come from, and when you're buying the product, you're putting money back into the economy, and probably you know of the farm or the vineyard or whatever it is where the products come from. But it's a great example that where the other major players are moving out of an area or adopting a different model, it does provide opportunities for others. So it'd be wonderful to see more of this going on.
Absolutely.
They're very rigorous about their suppliers, how they pick them. What can retailers sort of learn from that message? Is source, the source of your food, really that sort of one of the key things for consumers, or are there other things that are more important?
I mean, source of food is very important. We've had a lot of reports in the news recently. The most recent one with the chicken issue, out-of-date chicken being sent to Tesco stores. So people are more concerned about what they put into their bodies. On the other side of it, you do have about education.
Sure.
So when you're going to a store like McNade's, it's about passion, it's about education. All of their staff really know what they're talking about. They know their produce and they love it. Trying to replicate that, that's what the issue is.
Brilliant. OK, thanks for that, guys. Now, before we go, we just have time to reveal our number of the week. And this week's number is 86%. That's the proportion of staff who are coming to work while they're ill, according to a survey of more than 1,000 employers representing around 4.6 million workers. Presenteeism, as it's known, has tripled since 2010, when it stood at just 26%. Now, a snuffly nose or tickly cough isn't enough to keep Kent's workforce away from their jobs. We asked people in Chatham what they thought about
Yeah, I was, well, a lot of the time I was on commission only because I was a financial advisor. So, yes, I had to go to work for my own preservation. And I did feel quite a bit of pressure to perform, even though I was maybe not 100%. So, yes, the answer is yes.
No, I wouldn't want to. I'd feel pressured, definitely.
No, because I think if you're not well, you can't really give 100% to your job. Obviously, it varies what job it is, but I don't know. I don't think people should. I know I had to retire early through ill health, but and the doctor said, you know, your job's making you ill.
I have done, yeah. I suppose more where like, I'm a loyal person, like where I work for different places. I work in 9 different sites, so I do my best to go to work, and I'm very rarely sick, thank God.
Probably not, no. My health would be more important.
In society today, getting a job is very difficult. Keeping the job is even more difficult. So, you know, bosses could look unfavourable on you if you take 1 or 2 days off because you've got a cough or a cold.
OK, so do bosses have to do something about this issue of presenteeism? Is it on bosses rather than on workers to fix this?
There's definitely a cultural aspect to this, isn't there? And there's a pressure on employees to feel that they have to turn up, and this whole notion of the elongation of working hours. So I'm sure that bosses can do more, but also I can't believe it's a good idea to have sick employees turning up and infecting everyone else. It just doesn't make sense.
Another thing is, very, very quickly, is it ever acceptable to ask someone to work from home if they're calling sick, say that they're unwell?
I think that's on the employee. If they say they've broken their leg and they can't get in, but they still want to work on their laptop and do their emails, if they're fine with that, that's on the employee. But an employer should never ask someone if they are too fit to come in to work. They are not fit enough to work at all.
Okay. Guys, thanks very much for being on the show. It's been great having you on. That's it for the latest edition of Chris & Co, our show looking at the issues affecting business in Kent. Keep up to date at kentbusiness.co.uk. But for now, thanks very much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
KTNA, experts in apprenticeships, traineeships and work-based training.